All right, everyone. Welcome to this week's installment of the Explore series. We are going to have a fun episode today. But before we get to that, let me go over where we've been so far. So if this is your first week, welcome. I encourage you to go back and look at some of our prior videos. We've looked at Johnson University as a whole. We talked about the admissions process and got to hear from several students about why they chose Johnson and what they remember from choosing a college. We've looked at dining services. We've looked at dorm life because outside of the classroom, you do a lot of sleeping and a lot of eating and hanging out with your friends. And so we cover a lot of that. We looked at our newest building on campus, the Athletic and Recreation Complex. And when you're not eating, sleeping, or hanging out with your friends in the Athletic and Recreation Complex, you're in chapel. And we looked at that a couple of weeks ago. So I really do encourage you to go back, check those out. Tori, if you could throw the link to the Explore series into the chat, I would appreciate that. And if you're watching this in the future, then you've already found that page, so you can go back and watch those. And then also you'll notice, if you find it, that we've gone through different schools. So whatever your major interest is, or your what you're thinking about studying in college, you can kind of see those in between. We've looked at School of Communication and Creative Arts, Business Public Leadership, School of Social and Behavioral Sciences, School of Congregational Ministry. We're reaching the end of the series, guys. But this week is a special edition, and it's not for students, but if you're a student, you can hang out, or you can come get your parents to come check it out, because this is going to be a parent edition to this. Going to college is all about the student, and it's great, and it's a good time for you being able to watch your child go off to college, but it affects you as well, and you have questions and you want answers. So that's kind of what we're going to be doing today, is looking at the parent side of things. So if I can have my special guests introduce themselves, Dr. John Weatherly and Tori Husky.
Hi, I'm John Weatherly. I have a couple of roles at Johnson University. I am a professor of New Testament, and I continue to teach classes in that field as part of the Bible curriculum that all of our students take. I'm also the university's provost, which means I'm the chief academic officer. So I work with the deans of the different schools and with other folks on the campus to assure that we are meeting our educational goals and that we're serving our students in the classroom very well. I'm also a dad. I have my wife and I have two children that have finished college, and they're launched into their adult lives. And I can tell you, I've been in Christian higher education for 30 years, but nothing changed my perspective on that whole thing that we're doing quite as much as when my own children were thinking about college and were in college. Parents, this is a wild ride, but you're going to be okay.
Hey guys, I'm Tori. I work in the admissions department here at Johnson, and my job basically is just to make sure that you as the parent and your student have the easiest, most stress-free and pain-free experience of making it from high school to college, or from college to college if you're transferring.
Absolutely. So thank you guys for being with us today. I can't wait to pick your brains a little bit. For anyone watching live with us, if you have any questions or comments, throw them over in the chat and we'll get to them. We can get to the questions a little bit later. If you have comments, we can try to address them. But just throw that over in the chat. So first question. All right, so I'm a parent. Let's just say I'm a parent, and I've had my child with me my whole life. I've been at the swim lessons. I was at the t-ball game. I've been parenting them all along. We made it through middle school, some of the toughest years of my life. And now here we are. My child is looking to go to college. What do I do as a parent? How do I help them find a college that they want to go to?
Yeah, let me, as the dad, let me jump in. It's different. There's no question about that. as our children are growing older, parenting is constantly changing. We parent them differently when they're in elementary school than when they're toddlers and preschoolers, and then adolescence is a different matter altogether. In a lot of ways, you're moving into a less directive role, and more a matter of consulting, supporting, encouraging. Now, that doesn't mean you just you let go of the reins and let them go, but I think parents who do this well kind of know how to stop telling or reduce the amount of telling, and encourage questions, and get our young people thinking about opportunities and so forth. A part of this is it's good, and the fact that you're watching this right now, that you're a part of this either live or watching the recording, that you're becoming informed yourself about college and about the options. And in a lot of respects, you're becoming a mature, a loving, caring conversation partner and all of that. We would like to kind of prevent our sons and daughters from making big mistakes. And obviously, we're still in a position to help them do that. But we also have to recognize that, especially in choosing a college and going to a college, that their own buy-in to that process and to that choice is very, very important. That doesn't mean that everybody gets exactly what they want, but it does mean that we kind of work with them to shape their desires and their interests towards something that is realistic, that is a good fit, that we're listening at least as much as we're talking.
Yeah, that's a good point. Tori, from your side of things in admissions, can you talk about what it's like working with parents, or maybe what you like to see from parents in the admissions process?
Absolutely. So my first piece of advice is just to be proactive. If your student is interested, even the slightest bit, in maybe going to college, start looking as soon as they express that interest. It might be in second grade, and that's okay. Let's go take a drive around a campus and see what that's like. I recommend taking actual vested college tours around sophomore year. You can start that process and actually start talking to people on campus about what it's going to look like to get to college. Additionally, in this kind of idea of proactivity around going to college, make sure you take your ACT and your SAT as soon as possible, and take it more than once if you can, if you want to. I was the kind of student that took it 6 times and made the exact same score every time. So if you get to test number 3 and you're pretty sure it's going to be the same, don't worry about it again. But do try to improve and take your test as many times as possible, because it equals scholarship dollars no matter where you go. Additionally, consider your classes in high school. Consider them to be more than what you're learning in high school, but as a preparation to what you will learn in college. So take classes in things you're interested in, things you might want to major in the future, and also take a look at those honors classes, those IB classes, those AP classes, and those dual enrollment credits. Take a look at all of those things with your student and see if that's something you might want to pursue, because all of those words and things that I just mentioned equal college credit, which equals more money in your pocket in the future, because those are classes you're not paying for at a university. So consider those, and they also cut down on time too. For every dual enrollment class you take, that's one less class out of your schedule and more time you can spend on just being a college student and living the social life and the spiritual life that comes with that as well. This is the boring stuff. Make sure you do your FAFSA when it opens. The sooner you do it, the sooner the government knows you're wanting to go to college, and the sooner they give you money. It's good stuff. So just make sure you do that on time, and make sure you apply early. That way you don't miss any deadlines.
Thank you, Tori. I appreciate that, and those are some really cool answers. Before we get to the next question, if you have any questions for our presenters, John Weatherly, expert provost and expert dad, and then Tori Husky, our admissions counselor, just go ahead and throw them in the chat, and we will get to them as soon as possible. So yes, next question. All right, so I'm a parent. My child is in college now. Great, or we've at least picked one out, and we're getting to college. how do I parent them when they're in college? How do I know that they're okay, that, they're making friends, that, they're eating, that everything's okay?
Yeah, and this is, this is really anxiety inducing, especially with the first one. That you just wonder what's going on. That routine that probably was a part of your life of seeing your child every day and having a conversation about how's your day going. They're having most of their meals at home. You know when they're home and in bed and so forth, and when they're out, they're out. You worry about what's going on, but maybe they're a phone call away. It is a different world. A part of what you're doing is again surrendering some levels of control, but you're doing that in an environment where the student is really in this transitional place, because colleges are designed really for this kind of experience of moving into independence. And I would say Christian colleges, and certainly Johnson University, we take very seriously the role that we have in transitioning students from life at home with their parents to independent life as followers of Jesus. And so that kind of formative thing is very important to us. Some routines that I think work well for a lot of families is to have maybe kind of a time during the week when you have a phone call. Maybe it's on a Friday afternoon or something of that nature. Maybe as mom and dad are getting home from work or something like that, the son or daughter gives a call and you can have 15 or 20 or 30 minutes to talk on the phone. Just staying in touch through social media can be helpful. Sending some images and pictures and so forth of what's going on. You want to ask questions, but you want to make sure that they're questions that are open, and not how would I want to put this, suspicious or controlling. Most of our students are not going to be concealing things from us. We don't need to be kind of in that grand inquisitor mode. We want to be, again, in that helpful and supportive mode, just to walk alongside them and let them know that we're cheering for them. And especially in that first year, they're going to be dealing with uncertainty about whether they belong. That's everybody. That isn't just a few people. That's everybody. Some are going to deal with significant homesickness, and this may surprise you because you may have a son or daughter who's really confident and who's been away from home a lot, and they may just be hit with that. And so just giving them the encouragement that says you can get through this. This is a common experience. Sometimes it may mean encouraging them to connect to other people on campus, an academic advisor, a resident assistant, the resident director of the dorm, maybe some of their professors, maybe even the counseling services or the academic support services that are available. So you're listening. You know your son or daughter probably better than anybody, and again, it's a kind of a role as a coach, as a consultant. Occasionally, reminders of values and priorities along the way. But we're relating to these, emerging young adults more and more as adults, and less as children in that way.
I love that. One thing I wanted to add to is I've seen this with a lot of parents while I've been working in admissions. The parents that are the most comfortable are the ones that spent a lot of time on campus prior to their student actually attending. They came for multiple visits. They talked to anyone who they could talk to. And I know that when you go on a visit, maybe, and you grab a random student in the hallway and they're like, tell me about your experience, your student's gonna be like, Mom, no, stop, you're embarrassing me. That's crazy, don't ask about that kind of stuff. It happens all the time. I encourage you to ask every question you can think of until you feel comfortable. And I encourage you to spend as much time on campus that it takes for you as a parent to feel confident that the school that you are sending your child to is going to take care of them in the way that you would as well. Because that's our goal. We want to provide a safe and nurturing space where your student can grow and thrive and learn. But in order for us to do that, you've also got to let them come to us, and you have to find that comfort. Another thing I would mention I have a degree in music. And so when I was a freshman and sophomore in college, my mom came to every performance I had, which as a music student, there's like one a week. And so she would drive up there. I encourage you to stay involved with your student that way. If they tell you they've got games or maybe a club thing that's happening that the public's allowed to go to, I suggest going to a couple. And once you see that your student is really integrated into this kind of community and they're really like flying on their own, you'll be able to feel a little bit more confident to step back a little bit and maybe not text 50 times a day, like my mom did to me for the first 6 months.
That's some great advice. Something I may add on to that, from personal experience, I'm a first generation college student. My parents didn't really know a lot of questions to ask. We do have a first gen program here that's kind of like a mentor situation, and it goes really well. And yeah, I reiterate what Tori said. You know, for a lot of us in admissions, people think that our job is just to, you know, get your student to come to college, but really it's a part of a larger system where we're trying to make sure they get passed off correctly to the next people, and that, you know, we're usually the first person that they contact in their journey. So, you know, we identify, like, you know, people they maybe want to get connected with, like, oh, they have an interest in music. Well, you need to go talk to this professor. Oh, you're a first gen student. We're going to get you hooked up with this. So we do try our best to make sure that your student is shifting over even before they get here. So good stuff there. Don't forget to throw your questions in the chat if you have them. My next question and maybe John, you'll be able to speak to this for us. So your kid wants to go into Christian higher education and they want to go into ministry maybe. So either one of those two things sometimes have a stigma, but parents like to know when their kids go to college, no matter what they're doing, are they going to be able to find a job? Are they going to be able to make money? So anything you'd like to say to that, Dr. Weatherly?
Yeah, and you know, this, if you are experiencing anxiety about the cost of college and are worried about the return on the investment from college, to say that you are not alone is an understatement. You know, for most Americans, college is the biggest single expenditure that they make, other than maybe buying a home. You know, a home is something you can look at, but the college is an experience. So it's a very, very daunting kind of a thing. Right now, because of Department of Education requirements, it's possible for you to go on the internet and look at the average annual income of graduates of any accredited college in the country. And some people use that as their primary criterion for choosing a college. I don't think that is the best criterion to use. I would say that to anyone, and I would say that especially to a Christian. But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't still be concerned that we are being good stewards of our resources, and that we're preparing for a future for our children that doesn't involve, you know, financial hardship and financial need. There is a kind of a stereotype that says if you go into ministry in the church, or if you go into the nonprofit sector in general, that you're not going to earn a very big income. And it's not false in one respect, and that is that despite what a few people think, because they see famous televangelists who, you know, are multimillionaires and imagine that people in ministry make lots of money. The reality is that people who are in ministry earn modest salaries. But the other reality is that people in ministry in the nonprofit sector, in such things as school teaching, you know, counseling, other social agency work, and so forth, where many of our students aspire to serve, they may not make, you know, large salaries, but they make salaries that are more than livable. I think that our students find on graduation that, you know, it's a bit of a struggle to you know, find a place to live and pay for a vehicle and maybe begin paying off on the hopefully modest debt that they may have acquired from a few student loans, but they make it. Very few of them miss a meal. The rate that we see, one gauge of this is the rate of repayment on student loans from Johnson University. And our repayment rate is excellent as compared to national standards. Very, very few of our students who are unable to pay back their loans after graduation. So if your goal is to get rich, think twice about any college that you go to, because there is no guarantee that at the other end, you're going to be getting that big income. But if your goal is to have a meaningful life of service, understand that at Johnson and other Christian universities, the track record proves that you can take a service-related profession and live a very comfortable life on a modest income. I'll testify. As I said, I've been in Christian higher ed for 30 years. My income has always been, relatively speaking, on the low side of average. And every year it was a bit of a financial struggle. But God is good. We never missed a meal. We never missed a payment. And I'm old enough to say, I think I'm on a trajectory where I'm going to get to retire as well. So it can be done, and we see it done all the time.
Yeah, thank you for that. I really like the way of how you kind of switched framing it. It's not about the money, about the job kind of thing, but that they will be taken care of, and that our students who graduate from here do well, are typically very happy students. I got a message in the chat, and I'm gonna throw this one out here. I think Tori, you'll be able to do this, and John, chime in if you would like. What are some things that JU is intentional about doing in order to help freshmen feel as comfortable as possible?
I love this question.
Yeah.
And it really strikes home for me because the reason I work in higher education now is really because of those first few weeks of my freshman year in college. And I'll explain why. So no matter where you go, those first few weeks are gonna be weird. They're gonna be hard, especially if you're living in the dorms. And a great way to know whether you're in the right place is seeing what this school is going to do to maybe mitigate those feelings of uncomfortableness and newness that you'll experience. One thing I love about Johnson, and I look forward to it every year, is Genesis weekend. This year it's Genesis week. So we are, this is move-in week for all of our freshmen. They come in and we get to see them in person, maybe for the very first time. And they get gifts and they get presents, and there are people waiting, literally lined up to move them into the dorms. And they're there and you don't lift a finger, and you just watch as this entire horde of people just welcomes you into a family. And it's really an overwhelming and really joyful experience. It's always very exciting. We're going up and down the hallways with a hot dog cart, giving you food. We're driving around on golf carts, blasting music, just having a big fun time. Which I can't imagine moving into a dorm where you just walk in and say, hey, welcome, and you load all your stuff into your room and that's it. You go to class on Monday. That'd be crazy. So having that experience of just pure welcome as soon as you walk in, as soon as you step foot onto campus, is really integral to what we do. And it's not just for the student, it's for the whole family. During this time, we also set up students with a lot of organizations. We spend time getting them connected to our Student Government Association, which is the head of all other organizations on campus. So if you're interested in a club, if you want to get plugged in, those are your people, and we make sure that they are connected with them the very first night they're on campus. From that moment on, they know who to look to when they say, hey, how do I join Students Promoting Social Unity? How do I join the Woodworking Chapel? How do I join any organization? How do I start an organization? How do I join a sport? These are your people. We make sure that they know exactly who to go to from the very beginning. Additionally, in that same vein, in the first week of classes, we also connect them with their work-study job. We encourage students to get into their academic support center. We can set them up with a tutor. We can do this at any time, but I recommend doing this as soon as you get to campus. We can set them up with a personal tutor that they are set up to meet with every single week that's had the exact same classes and the exact same professors that your student will be having, so they know exactly what to do. And that can be something that builds right into their schedule. This person can also help do all of their time management things and really optimize their schedule. That way they have the least stressful semester possible. I also recommend considering the counseling center from the very beginning. All of our students have access to free mental health counseling by licensed mental health professionals. If you feel like that is something that your student would benefit from, you can set those appointments up from the very beginning. Personally, I recommend it. College is stressful, no matter who you are. And having someone to talk to can be the difference between having a great semester and just having an okay one. My favorite part of the first week of classes is the church fair. So after I believe it's your first chapel, there will be a fair in the hallway, the marble hallway that we have on campus, where local churches will actually come out, local pastors will come and chat with students and try and get them plugged into different congregations around campus that are near campus. And so these pastors can come out and you can take time, your student can take time to learn about each individual church's missions. What is their focus on service? What is their focus on what they're passionate about? Is there a spot in their worship team? Do they offer a bus that drives to campus to pick them up if they don't have a car? All of these little things that integrate more than you could ever realize. And I think that is something really powerful, that you can go out and personally meet people who are there and ready to serve you and ready to plug you in to serve others from the very beginning.
And
yeah, I was just going to throw in one other thing. All of our first year students, whether freshmen or transfers, are also enrolled in a course which is through their first semester, which is designed to help them transition to college. True freshmen are in a course that we call Freshman Cornerstone. And this is a small class. They'll be with about 10 other students and a member of the faculty. And the curriculum in that class is very interactive and discussion oriented. The relationships are primary, and kind of the learning goals flow out of that. So that is a really great place. If you're not making a connection anyplace else, you will make a connection in your Cornerstone course. For transfer students, there's a special version of that that we call the Bridge course. And again, this is a great opportunity. I'll make a general kind of dad-like operation or observation. Also, just being around campus. When freshmen come back to college from spring break, that's when they really feel like they belong to the place. The first semester is kind of a roller coaster, and then you get through winter, but you go home at spring break and you discover, I want to be back. And you come back, and you're coming back with a sense that you know your way around, you know your people, and it really feels like home. So my wife and I like to sit in the dining hall after spring break and just watch all the first year students and say, yeah, they're technically still freshmen, but psychologically they're sophomores now. They belong here.
Yeah, I think these are all very great points. And I will add only 2 more items to that. I was going to mention the Freshman Cornerstone. That's a great time in a very intentional way academically that we've tried to make sure they get integrated. The residential assistants, the RAs, traditional freshmen move into a freshman hall. So the RAs are specifically picked out for those halls so that they are integrated in as seamless as possible. So they're kind of trained just a little bit different, and they kind of have an eye out saying, like, with the knowledge of like, hey, these are freshman students, this is how I need to care for them. There's a lot of kind of like hall outings they do, hall bonding activities that they do as well. And then the other one was chapel. Chapel is kind of the dean of our chapel, Dr. Bill Wolf. If you didn't get to go see that video, you should go check it out. If there's a word that he is, it's intentional. And so he's really big on making our chapel services kind of very community felt and driven. So, that's kind of a lesser way of, like, maybe not direct, but it's a very real way of making the campus kind of feel familial. And then, there's a third. The other thing is we do like service learning hours. So typically in our first year, we try to get through different classes. We try to get people or students engaged with the community. And typically they take their friend groups and go and get engaged. They go volunteer at a Boys and Girls Club, or they teach like a soccer camp or something. They work with Habitat for Humanity. So there's endless possibilities and ways for students to get engaged, but there are also several that Johnson takes to be intentional. Sorry, I will go back into host mode. So great question. That's a good one. And so that leads me kind of to my next question, and maybe we kind of covered some of it throughout all of this. And this one's for Dr. Weatherly specifically, because Tori does not have a child, and nor do I, or at least not college age ones. And by at least, I mean, we still don't have children. Anyway, Dr. Weatherly, why would you send your kid to Johnson, or would you send your kid to Johnson?
Well, I would absolutely send my kid to Johnson. The only awkward part is that my kids wanted to get away from mom and dad. They liked us, but they kind of wanted to get out from under the shadow of their parents. The reason I would not hesitate to send my own child to this place is that there is a combination of Christian nurture and discipleship and academic excellence that happens here that I think is, and let me add to an experience with the student body that I think is hard to replicate at other institutions. We have an exceptional faculty on both of our physical campuses. I just appreciate my colleagues so much because they're subject matter experts. But a friend of mine used to say to me, elementary teachers love their students, high school teachers love their subjects, and college teachers love themselves. And this was a way of kind of sticking the knife between the ribs. Our faculty members, they love their students and they love their subjects, and they really don't care very much about themselves. They are very generous-minded, generous-hearted, generous living people. So the opportunity to be mentored by people like that, to live with people like that is really extraordinary. The way that our Bible curriculum is shared by all of our students, that everyone is doing essentially a major in Bible along with their professional major. This is something that unites the student body and focuses everybody on their faith and on growing in their faith. It's really extraordinary. The entire student body can together talk about what it is to learn, about the Old Testament, to learn about the life of Jesus, to be immersed in the letters of Paul, and to share, what they're learning out of that. So what we see as students graduate from here is that they're academically and professionally competent. They are readily able to find work in their profession. They're in demand among people who know about us and have experience with our graduates. They are grounded in their faith. They know what their faith is, and they know why it is reasonable and good to hold that faith and to persist in that faith and to live that faith out. They have a really extraordinary network of friendships that persist for a lifetime. You got to go to a Johnson wedding sometime, when Johnson students are getting married, and see the way all of these people who are in college together come together at a celebration like that. So it's an extraordinary experience. What would you expect to pay for an experience like this? We're also very affordable. College is again, it's hugely expensive, but relative to other institutions and the cost of college, we work very hard to make that affordable and to use the university's resources to keep our costs as reasonable as we can while maintaining that quality. So for all of these reasons, and I just want to get to know your kids. I hope I can have them in class and watch them walk across the stage when they graduate. It's a great experience.
Thank you. I just saw a question pop up in the chat, so I'll throw it out here. Do you recommend freshmen having a car on campus if that is possible for them?
I love
Cars
that
are great.
answer for this, so I want him to answer.
Cars are great. We have no restrictions on freshmen having cars. Yeah, if it's possible for your student to have a car, by all means, your student should bring a car. In the short term, we expect students to stay closer to campus because of this pandemic, obviously, that we're dealing with. But having the ability to connect in the community is something that we want students to do, and it's very useful. And there's no extra charge for having a car on campus.
He didn't say what I wanted him to, so I'll say it.
Oh, what was
Dr.
that?
Weatherly is one of my favorite things he says, because parents often ask, can a student have a car? What does it cost to have a car? Dr. Weatherly's response in the past has been, if you can't have a car, if you're halfway decent at making friends, you will always have a ride no matter where you need to go.
Oh yeah, man.
Which is
Absolutely.
what I want to say as well, is that if having a car is not a possibility, or it would just be, it's just not reasonable for you at the time that you're in, as long as you have friends, as long as you have a roommate, you will always have a ride no matter where you need to be.
I have students offering me rides. So, I mean, that's how easy it is to get a ride around here.
Yeah, no, that's definitely, it's never been a problem. Even my experience as a student, you say the word Walmart and usually there's 6 guys running to your car to go make a Walmart run, or mostly a Taco Bell run.
Yeah.
That's really the only reason you go out. A late night chalupa. If you have any more questions, throw them in the chat. We're kind of reaching the end of our time here. I'd like to thank Dr. Weatherly and Tori for taking time out of their day to talk about this. Maybe another question that you can speak to, Dr. Weatherly, is maybe some of the empty nest. Maybe this is just general advice. It's less about, how to help them get into college. But as from a parent's perspective, what's it like to send that first kid? And then what's it like to lose that last kid?
I don't like to cry, but I pretty much did when we finally left from taking our first our older child to college, and he went to college a long way away. And if it weren't for the fact that I had to drive a long time, I probably would have cried the whole way as well. It's wrenching, but it's great. You miss that presence at the dinner table and in conversation and so forth. I'll tell you what I didn't miss. I didn't miss the 5 extra gallons of milk a week that we were buying when our son was at home. And I had no idea how much tuition, room, and board we could pay just out of grocery savings in getting rid of an 18-year-old boy. But I tell you what, the empty nest is pretty awesome. Having some space to yourself and some time to yourself and some room to yourself is a pretty good deal. And just over the horizon is the scenario. My wife and I just celebrated our 40th wedding anniversary. Our kids got together so that we could and paid for all of us to go on vacation together. Now, we haven't done it yet because the pandemic shut that down. But, all that hard work to pay off at the end.
Absolutely. Well, like I said before, we are glad that you guys were able to come and listen to Dr. Weatherly and Tori talk about these things. But before I end the video, has there anything that we've missed, anything we want to mention maybe that we haven't talked about, any other questions out there, or are we feeling good? Speak now or forever hold your peace. And by forever hold your peace, I mean that you can email me at rmcdaniel. Tori, can you throw my email in the chat? At rmcdaniel@johnsonu.edu. And if you log off and you go, I was going to ask that question, you can just shoot it on over to me and I will send it to the person who can answer it best and make sure they get back with you. So again, thank you for coming out this week. Next week is the School of Intercultural Studies. And then the week after that is a student takeover of the Explore series. So we're going to give basically a camera to a bunch of college students, and they're going to run around the university and tell you what it's like to be a college student. So that one will be fun. But until then, stay safe, everyone. And we were glad that you came and hung out with us this afternoon. Bye, everybody.